Hi everyone, Michelle here of Purple Lotus Mosaics, and today we are going to make mosaic pendants. If you have a kit, let me go over everything that comes with it. There's some cord here, a grouting kit, there's some adhesive, some little tools, these are very handy. There's some tesserae, which are little pieces to put in your pendants. And then there's some pendant blanks, which I will show you those in a minute. So first you can put aside your grouting kit for now. Put that aside. You can put away your cords for now. And you can even put away your adhesive for now. The first thing we're going to do is come up with our designs. So I find it helpful to have to dump this stuff out on like a paper plate or something. You might want to put down newspaper on your work surface. You know, it could get a little messy. You're working with glue and stuff, but so I've got my tesserae here, and I just want to dump that out onto my plate, and this way I can see everything that I have and kind of sort through it. And then I'm going to grab another plate here and put my pendant blanks. So if you're doing this on your own, you can just have them all out here and work on them all. If you're with a couple friends, each person can do 2 or 3 depending on how many people you have. It's a great fun activity to do with a couple people, but it's also fun to do by yourself. So here are the blanks that I have. There's a couple different shapes, as you can see, and these are kind of just random shapes that come with the kit. So you might get something a little different than this, but they'll basically be these things. So let me just show you real quick the steps involved. So the first thing we're going to do, we start with this, what's called a blank. And it's just base metal, so I would say this is more like costume jewelry. This is base metal, nothing fancy like silver or anything. So it's got like a coating on it, that's how these are. But they're perfect for this, for making little mini mosaics that are going to be really, I bet you get so many compliments when you wear these. And even the best part is that you can say you made it yourself. So this is what it looks like on the first step, empty. Then after we pick out our pieces to go in, I have one here that's been glued. So this has the pieces glued into it. As you can see, I only have a few pieces in there. This does not have grout yet, so that's going to be the final step. So I have one here that I have finished and grouted. So this is the completed piece on the cord, and it already has the grout, which is like a off-white. I have another one here that was done with black grout. So you can see the dark grout looks good with the silvers and the lighter colors. All right, so there's your 3 steps. So we're starting with the blanks. We're going to add the pieces first, glue the pieces in, and then we're going to do the grout. So let me just start with the blanks. So what I do is I sort through these fun little pieces, which you'll see how much fun it is to play with these pieces. I just play with these pieces and just put them in these blanks. You can see that they're not going to stick right away. They're not going to stick until you put the glue in, so you can really play around with designs as much as you want. You can keep moving these pieces around. I'm just randomly putting them in, but of course you can spend 5 minutes or you can spend 5 hours on this. I tend to like to work on them all at once and just keep rearranging. I've put things in, not been happy with it, and then just like dump it out and start over. This is where your little toothpick is going to come in handy. it helps to move pieces around, or if you want to just get one thing out that you don't want, you can get it out of there. So yeah, so have fun with it. This is the fun part, is just playing with all these little things. So I'd say take as much time as you need to do that. So once you're happy with your design, which I have one here that I finished, let me show you that one. I have this one, which I was pretty happy with. The pieces aren't glued yet, so I'm not going to hold it up. But you can probably see that I do have some space in between the pieces. And since this one's glued, you can see it a little closer. There's space around the edges, and there's space in between the pieces. And depending on how much grout you want to see, you can have more or less pieces than this. It's really, the grout's going to fill in the spaces. So that's up to you. I like to leave a little space in between, but you could have them really close together also. One important thing is you do want your pieces to lay flat. You don't want them to be buckled up like this, because then of course the glue isn't going to hold them down. So you want to make sure all your pieces lay flat. If they don't, just try and find a different piece. So there are a lot more pieces here than you'll need for your 6 pendants, and that's so you have an option. That's so you have a nice variety of things. And I'm sure you'll probably want to use as many as you can, but you know, it needs to lay flat so the glue holds it. So once you're happy with your design, which I am with this one, the next thing I want to do is glue these pieces in. So let me set this aside. I have my small tube of E6000 here. Now, there's a couple ways you can go about this. These pieces they kind of moved around a little bit, and I'm not going to make them very precise until I actually put the glue down. So before I put the glue in, we have to take all the pieces back out. So I want to take them out in kind of the same order that I had them in here, so I don't mess it up. Another thing you could do, you could take a photograph. You could take a little photo of it so you know where you had all your pieces. Or you can just do this. I'm just laying them out right next to it in the same order that I had them. All right, so now if this is the first one you're gluing, you have a new tube of glue. You'll see it has a seal. So the way to break that, you want to turn the cap upside down and press it in there. And that will open your glue. Of course, it immediately started to ooze out. And I want to just put a layer of glue in the bottom of this. You don't want too much glue because you don't want it to ooze up in between. But you do want to make sure it's underneath all your pieces. So I'm kind of just like spreading this with the top, like spreading it around in there. So it's not too thick, but so that it does cover the whole bottom. So now I'm gonna let this tack up for about 30 seconds or so. That does two things. It makes it a little more sticky while the air's hitting it. And that also helps when you put your pieces back in. If you do it right away, the glue's a little thinner, so your pieces tend to slide around a little more. If you wait about 30 seconds or so, it'll be a little more tacky, so when you put the pieces in, they'll stay better. Like, they won't slide around as much. But even that said, you want to keep an eye on it because the pieces could just slide around a little bit. It's just like hydroplaning, just until it sets up, which, you know, takes maybe about 5-10 minutes. Just want to keep an eye on it during that time. So as I've been talking, this has been getting tacky. I'm gonna show you another thing that happens while you're waiting for this to get tacky. You can see a little bit like how much glue I have in there. Not a ton. I don't want this to squeeze out in between my pieces when I put them in there. So I don't want the glue to be too thick. Really just cover the bottom. Another thing that's happening now as I'm waiting for this, the glue is spreading out. So, I mean, it's not so thin that it's going to cover the whole bottom, but it is spreading out a little bit as it sits. All right, so I've waited about 30 seconds, so I'm going to start to put my pieces back in. And I want to have them in the same order that I had them originally because I liked that design. And as I set them in, I'm making sure that there's glue underneath each piece. So if the glue seems to be down the middle and there's no piece there, I'm kind of like setting this in the middle and moving it back over so it grabs the glue. So just put all these back in. And now I can move this around a little more to get it exactly how I want it. Because I'm paying attention to my spacing, and I don't want some pieces to touch and others to not touch. I want it to be kind of even spacing around everything. So I'm doing that. Just make sure it's good. I try and keep my fingers clean. Once you get a little glue on your finger, it gets on the top, which that'll come off when we grout, but just in general, we want to try and work as neat as possible. So let me just make sure I'm happy with where all these pieces are, which I am. So this is what I made. You could see there's space in between, but the grout is going to take up all that space. I probably could have fit a couple more little pieces in there, but that's okay. Yeah, I like the look when it has a little more grout in there too. It kind of gives it a background and offsets it. But on the first example I showed you, I think I had a little bit less space in between than this one. The shapes are different, so the space is going to be a little different. All right, so now I want to let this dry. If I have another piece to glue, I would do all my gluing first. So the gluing is, you want that glue to dry at least an hour before you do the grout. So if you can wait overnight, that's great, but you don't have to. I would suggest just at least like an hour. So now would be a great time to go have some tea, a glass of wine, just relax a little bit. You could glue the rest of your pieces. So when you are ready to grout, the grout, you're going to mix it all at once. So, and you can't save it. So you want to grout all your pieces at the same time. So I would say make sure you glue all your pieces at once. All right, thanks.